Following Umbara's defection to the Separatists, the Republic understood that they had to take this strategically crucial world, not just due to its location, but due to the valuable advanced technology the Umbarans possessed. As such, Republic forces began amassing for an invasion of the world. However, the Separatists also understood the importance of this planet, tightening their grip on the world hidden within the Shadow Nebula. The world was defended by a Separatist fleet consisting of a Providence-class dreadnought and several Munificent-class frigates. However, this was no match for a sharp Republic offensive that briefly smashed through the Separatist blockade, allowing a handful of Acclamator-class assault ships to make their way down to the surface of the planet. The battle would begin with Republic forces preparing to carry out a series of landings ahead of an assault on the planetary capital. The objectives of Republic forces during the landing here would be simply to secure a foothold on the ground and to clear a landing zone for additional Republic forces. Meanwhile, the Umbarans, supporting the Separatist cause, sought to prevent Republic forces from securing a foothold and drive any Republic forces off of their world. After smashing through the Separatist fleet in orbit, the Acclamators began making their way into the lower atmospheres of the planet and deploying their forces. Well, the Acclamator carrying Obi-Wan and his 212th Attack Battalion made their way to the south to carry out a landing in that area. Anakin Skywalker and the 501st Legion proceeded north to carry out what would be one of the most perilous landings of the campaign. The first units of the 501st left their Acclamator-class assault ships on the first of two waves of LAAT gunships making their way toward the surface. These gunships were supported by flights of Z-95 headhunters to provide air cover against the capable Umbaran air forces. As the LAATs approached the landing zone, however, they were met with heavy anti-air fire that managed to significantly whittle down their numbers. However, the first wave of LAATs were able to carry out a low pass, delivering the first wave of Republic troops to the surface. This first wave included a large number of AT-RT walkers. These fast walkers would immediately regroup and begin carrying out assaults, mostly frontal assaults, against the Umbaran defensive positions set up in the landing zone. As the AT-RTs began charging the Umbaran positions, a number of Umbaran hover tanks, a form of heavy armor, were brought up from the rear to attempt to fight off the Republic light scout armor. However, while these hover tanks were able to take a few good shots against the advancing AT-RTs, the Republic forces proved too maneuverable and had soon overrun the heavy armor the Umbarans had brought into the battle space. With the heavy armor neutralized, the second wave of LAATs began making their way to the surface. This wave deployed primarily infantry and Jedi General Anakin Skywalker, who was leading the assault. With now a large number of clone troopers deployed to the surface of Umbara and starting to drive Umbaran forces back, the Umbarans, holding up defensive positions within the landing zone, retreat to a ridge line that overlooks the battlefield and prepare another defensive line. Once they had secured this defensive line, they brought up another row of hover tanks, which began bombarding the battlefield from afar, carrying out fire support missions for the retreating Umbarans. Seeing the strategic importance of this ridgeline, the Republic assault pivoted to carry out an assault against this ridgeline, with Republic forces ultimately storming and overwhelming the Umbaran defenders on top of the ridge. As Republic forces flooded onto the top of the ridge, the remaining Umbaran forces were forced to flee into the dense woods beyond the ridge's rim. With the top of the ridge secured and the fighting appearing to be over, Republic forces dug in and began preparing a staging area for future landed forces. However, the Umbarans weren't quite done fighting yet. The survivors of the initial defensive forces swung around the back using the woods as cover and were able to sneak up behind the Republic defenders. The Republic defensive positions on top of the ridge were rather established by the time the Umbarans carried out their counterattack, with the Republic having dug trenches and other fortifications. However, these trenches and fortifications were all angled into the forest that they had seen the Umbarans retreat into, and they weren't really prepared for an assault from behind as the Umbarans snuck around to the back of the Republic defensive line and hit them from behind. On top of this, Republic forces were rather exhausted from the initial landing, and while the Umbarans were also rather worn out, they had a number of performance-enhancing drugs that were pumped directly into their system, one of the many technologies that Umbarans had that increase their combat effectiveness. As a result, this rather small Umbaran force, which had caught Republic forces off guard, was able to actually drive Republic forces off the top of the hill as Republic forces retreated ahead of a large airstrike, which ultimately leveled the entirety of the top of the hill and wiped out the last of the major formations of Umbaran defenders within the staging area. With the staging area now secured, Republic forces could set up a command post and began preparing for an assault on the capital city. Ultimately, while the Battle of Umbara rages on, this first minor engagement of the the battle could be seen as a Republic victory, with Republic forces having secured a foothold on the planet, but at great cost. The Umbarans had put up one hell of a defense, and their technology was proving a thorn in the side of Republic military commanders. As I stated at the start of this video, the Umbarans were originally aligned with the Republic, but ultimately defected to the Separatists around the midpoint of the war. If you'd like to learn about that, I'll leave a link in the upper right-hand corner to a video I have on the history of Umbara and their position during the Clone Wars. And if you have any other battles you'd like to see covered in future episodes of Battle Analysis and added to the archive, you can let me know down below in the comments. Last but not least, if you enjoyed this video, head down below, hit the like button, the subscribe button, and the bell icon so you get notified when I upload new videos. So for Sci-Fi Deep Dive, I'm Colin, and I will see you next time.